what do you call that? Just a two-dimensional tool for the protagonist to actually achieve his or her goals. Yeah, what happens is a lot of women characters are just flat. They're just there because they're beautiful. Mostly they're from North India, they're fair. Or, there are comedians who are just slapped for slapstick humor, literally. So they just slapped because they have to crack some kind of joke. They don't add to the plot. They don't exist. But that's not how I look at people. I mean, when I look at somebody, I definitely give them some value.
The show is called Say What. And on our first episode of Say What, I have someone, I find him a creative genius, and he's one of my favorite people in Tollywood and in Hyderabad. Not just because he's brilliant at what he does, also because he's somebody so easy to get along with. Director, writer, TV host, actor. My God, he does everything. And that is Tarun Bhaskar. Welcome to Say What on Clapboard.
Hey, Vansa, nice to see you again. And finally, we are into this digital space where you're hosting video interviews now. I'm very happy. So
I know. But tell me, how have you been? It's been so long since I've seen you.
I've been good, man. I've been keeping my sanity well so far. As in, definitely, there's been a lot of ups and downs because of the pandemic outside, but it hasn't managed to rattle me up yet. I'm still continuing a good routine, and right now, I found my space, and I'm figuring out my writing routine. So it's good.
But was it not like a writer's and a director's paradise? You're not asked to appear anywhere. You can just stay cooped up in your house, in your pajamas, and just brainstorm and come up with a brilliant idea.
I know. I thought it would be easy. Actually, I thought I'd be making the most of this time, but unfortunately, I think I've wasted a lot of it trying to figure out what will happen to the world, because the world was going through a lot, and I think I was really losing inspiration to write. But now I think I've found my place, so I think it's a better space now.
Now, I've always started my interviews with you asking, how did this happen, directing, writing. But today I want to ask, what was Tarun Bhaskar like a kid growing up? Did you have such creative inclinations at a very young age, or did it happen through college or high school or something? What were you growing up? What were you like growing up?
So initially, when I was a kid, my mom was a commercial artist. So she used to do a lot of paintings for corporate companies. She had an animation director offer for Arun Ice Creams or something, I think. She was supposed to do some graphics then when she was in Chennai before I was born. So she was inclined towards arts, and she also did her Bachelor of Fine Arts. So I think it was like that. And my father was a very good artist. I think he used to sketch really well. So I started painting. So they wanted me to get into drawing and art and everything. So I had won more than 60, 65 awards in art as a kid. So I went to a lot of painting competitions. I had gone to every painting competition in town because of my parents. And I had won something, consolation, first prize, second prize, whatever. And then I realized that I was good at it. Maharashtra government felicitated me. There was this Balaratna award that I got. And I'd gone to Delhi for a international fresco competition. So I still paint, I still sketch sometimes. But what happened was a few relatives were, throwing around a few, taunts. So they were like, what will you do with all this? And there was a little bit of, how do you call it? There was a little bit of intolerance for what I used to do. Because every other day in the assembly, there would be some award that I was getting in school because of painting or art. And in fact, so I was slightly abnormal only. At that point of time, even I started getting fed up because it actually, when you get a lot of attention, you actually get a lot of negativity as well, unnecessary negativity. So that started happening, and people were looking at me. I was getting a lot of bad vibes, but a lot of people were taunting me, saying that, how are you going to make a living out of it? Are you going to paint on the roads? Are you going to paint for people and make money? So I decided somehow something inside told me that I have to paint for people and make money. I just have to find the right medium. So that is how unconsciously cinema happened. It was actually I was actually very ignorant of all the things that these people said, but something brewed inside me, and I think I used it as fuel to actually take me ahead in life. And fortunately, I didn't dig deep into that, and I just didn't sit down there and brood over all those things. So yeah, I think my childhood was like that. I was already hearing a lot of taunts from other people, and I was into arts already. So I think that creative thing was there.
But for winning so many awards in something so creative, it's okay. But short films sort of gave you that kickstart that you wanted, I guess. Tell me how, because a lot of budding directors and writers, they follow you, they look up to you. This one is for them. How much do you think it helps getting that jump start these days? Because short films are easy to make. You don't have to wait for a production house or distribution or anything like that. You can make anything and put it up on YouTube. How much does it help? And tell me your journey through short films, please.
So short film, see, that's how I stumbled upon short films. In fact, at the point when I was starting off, what happened was camcorders were becoming more consumerish than prosumer, because video was becoming easier for people to actually, it was easy access for me. As in for 8,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees, you would get these 12 megapixel cameras where you can shoot some digital films on. It was becoming very easy for the consumer to shoot professional level video at the time when I was in my 12th grade. So I started experimenting. There were also non-linear editing softwares which are available. More importantly, what it taught me was how to kind of tell a story. And I think today it's even, I think a lot more people are understanding the nuances of filmmaking, because every app has an editing thing, and you can actually put in your clips and you can understand how a beginning, middle, end works, how pasting one clip after the other actually tells a story. So that is I think that is very, very easy now for everybody, and that was what happened for me. What short films did to me was it taught me filmmaking through experimentation. Because no matter how much theory you read, it's only by actually making a lot of mistakes, failing, and understanding what you're good at and discovering your style. So it took me Sainma. Sainma was my last short film. I think I made a short film recently for Netflix now, but before that, Sainma was my last short film before I entered feature films. And that was the aha moment for me when I realized that, there are so many techniques that I employed in Sainma. Accidentally discovered my style through Sainma. It was a journey. It all kind of fit together, and then I said I'm ready. So a lot of people actually right now who are actually thinking, let me make a short film, let me make a feature film. You have to listen to yourself. A lot of people have a lot of great ideas, but I think you have to keep making short films till that aha moment actually happens, and it's actually a thing. It'll happen to you. It'll happen to you and it'll tell you that you're ready for a feature film. Until then, you will never make a feature film. So short films are that. I mean, short films actually made me explore my own style, discover my own style.
That's the way to start. But I have spoken to you about Pelli Choopulu so many times because it's one of my favorite Telugu movies. And wherever I go, when I talk to people who don't speak Telugu also, I keep telling them, watch Pelli Choopulu, watch Pelli Choopulu, because no matter how much you talk about it, it's not enough. I've never asked you this. So today I was thinking, when you direct your first movie, there's a lot of pressure on you personally, and when you're as creative as you, there are so many ideas running around. When you sat down and when you decided, okay, this is the script that is going to go down, how did that happen? I mean, why this story? I want to know, because this story is very unusual and not masaledar, but why this story?
No, so Mansa, what happens is actually now I have more pressure than Pelli Choopulu, because when I was starting off with Pelli Choopulu, there was absolutely no baggage attached to the name. There was nothing that I had to promise. There were no expectations. So in fact, the pressure was very minimal if I compare it to what pressure I deal with on a day-to-day basis now when I'm trying to write, because people have weird expectations. The media tells you, makes a lot of statements about you, the preconceived notions even before your film comes out, and you have to smash all that. You have to exceed all expectations. So the pressure is now very real. For Pelli Choopulu, in fact, I was ignorant, blissfully ignorant about the way the business works. So I think that is a blessing, because I feel that, when you're making your first film, all you focus on is your craft, nothing else. I mean, the PR doesn't matter, the marketing doesn't matter. You're a new guy, you have nothing to lose. Everything that is there to lose is for the producer. He's making the biggest risk. So for me, when I was writing Pelli Choopulu, I was kind of, I think I had an idea about what I was getting into. I mean, I knew that the risk was higher for the producer. So I realized that the only way I can crack the deal with the producer is if I make a very good business plan that actually makes a lot of money, or just promises them that their return of investment will be given back. And for that, I realized that the genre that actually is a crowd pulling genre, the genre that can be, if you have to make a mass film, it's you have to spend a lot. You have to spend a lot on a known face, and you have to you have to take a lot of cinematic liberties, and that's a risk that might pay off or might not pay off. Right now, if you put in Junior NTR sir or Pawan Kalyan sir, these people, they already come in with their mass audience, and no matter how you experiment with them, you're guaranteed a particular market. But for a newcomer, it's not possible. You can't take somebody from the street and make him a mass hero instantly overnight. So that's not going to happen. So obviously, the only thing I could count on, the next biggest market, is the family. So the family crowd, they wanted to see something relatable. What is relatable for family? What are the nuances? What are the problems that a middle class family is facing? What is relatable right now? So I really wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about a family. I wanted to get a family viewing for Pelli Choopulu. And also I wanted it to be in the guise of a rom-com. A coming of age in the guise of a rom-com. So when I was looking at my own generation, looking at myself, looking at the people around me, I felt that the boys, we were millennial, so whatever, we were really used to a lot of luxuries, and we were becoming lazy as a generation. So I realized, that, we have everything we need. We are just trying to find purpose. And we are relentlessly trying for instant gratification on social media. And that's keeping us, that's making us very void. We are not able to switch off and actually listen to ourselves, go dwell deeper inside and actually look for our own purpose. And I think that's a lot of boys. I mean, if you look at the women, contrary, especially this generation, they are more clear. I mean, they really want to, I think they've figured out that it's their time. They've seen the previous generation. They don't want to be like that anymore. They feel that it's their calling, and they're more clear. They're more organized in their head. They want to get out there and do something they don't have. And now they know that it's a very empowering space for a woman outside. Right now, you have the tools, you have the power of social media to actually help a woman. So a lot of women are self-aware. I mean, they're aware of this. So they're more driven. But for guys, it's become like the middle class burden is there. You have to do something for the family. The father's done so much hard work. The previous generation has seen so much shit that you can't really compete with the father anymore. Like, the guy is like, okay, my father's done a lot more. I don't think I can match up to my father's hard work. So let me just sit and, do whatever the hell I want in peace. So it's become lazy for them. So I realized that this was a very relatable thing. And that's why Ritu and Chitra and Prashant have those character arcs. So I felt this is a story that every family will relate to, because this is the story of our generation. And I thought if relatability and sympathy and some gratification because of that inner conflict, which is very relatable, happens, then I knew that a family audience will definitely accept this film. And that's what happened with Pelli Choopulu. I mean, the bet paid off.
It's like two problems. They want to get a girl married who's career oriented. They want to push a guy who's not career oriented into a career. So it's just like very relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so also when I was writing Chitra, I realized I did not want to be too preachy about the family pressure for women or anything, and I did not want it to be one major conflict where the girl has to fight with the father to get out of the house. I wanted it to seem normal that the parents are letting them go, because the moment you create that dramatic struggle in cinema, that kind of thing prevails. But the moment you make it less relevant, automatically it becomes like a very casual thing for families to accept it also. So that was my conscious thing. I didn't want to make a dramatic conflict out of the father and the daughter. The father, in fact, does not have any control over the daughter. And that is the truth, actually. Today, I see my sisters, my cousins, my wife's sisters, and everything. And I look at them and they have total control. I mean, they wear what they want, they fight about it. I mean, out of love, they try to convince their fathers, but the fathers have no control.
That should, if you were to have a daughter later, that should teach you a lesson from now on only. But I want to ask, I never asked you this, I've met you quite a few times. How did you find Vijay Deverakonda, who's such a big star now, and you launched him back then? How did this discovery happen, both Ritu and Vijay? Where did you find them, and how did that happen?
See, Vijay and I used to meet up casually. I used to meet a lot of actors in my office. I had an office space in Somajiguda. And Vijay used to come in, and I thought Vijay was a good looking guy. And I always felt that good looking guys cannot act. So I thought this fellow might not act. So he told me, I mean, we used to talk about a lot of things. And then I told him about Pelichupulu's script. But then when I saw him in Nagashwin's film, where he played a role, Rishi character, Yavade Subramaniam, that was when it clicked for me that this guy's got some energy. This guy's got some kind of drive in him. And it seemed right for that. Because when I met him, he seemed like a very lazy chap. The way he was talking also was very lazy. And I told him, you're perfect for the character. So similarly, Ritu also, I felt that Ritu was go-getter, as in right from, I knew her from a very long time, as in she's more like family to me. Oh my God, we go a long way back. So I know her parents, knows my parents, all our friends, we hang out a lot. We used to I mean, that's how she entered into that filmmaking thing. We made a short film together. And she was worried that she'll spoil that short film. But when I saw Ritu was very focused. She's very determined as a girl. As a woman, she wants to just do whatever she excelled in everything. She had a job in Google. She excelled in engineering. Then she quit her amazing job in Google to actually walk the ramp and do modeling. And after modeling, she just jumped into filmmaking as well. I mean, she just did not hesitate. And today she's learned Tamil, she's learned Telugu so well. She knows Telugu from a long time, but she's learned Tamil so well. And, it's very, very heartwarming to see that, she's going places. She's very determined. I mean, that energy was amazing. And I discovered that energy a long time back. I mean, for Pelichupulu, Ritu was the obvious choice. I mean, I did approach other actors because there was a huge pressure for me to actually get some marketable names because... otherwise the project wouldn't take off. So I had to make some compromises. And at that point of time, my father passed away and I had a lot of loans. So I just realized that, I just had to get this thing out. But eventually it came down to the choices that were very instinctive for me, Vijay and Ritu. So Vijay and Ritu were always running in my mind, but it somehow just came down to that. In fact, there was a couple of actors also that recently came out now. But they were also like a choice, if not Vijay. So, yeah.
It's the energy. But last question about Pelichupulu. Everything about it was fresh, novel, and new. Like you said, you were starting from the scratch when the feature film journey was starting. What were you most nervous about? What were you petrified about? Tell me that.
I was most petrified about the fact that if I make any sense, as in, that is the worst thing that's the innermost fear for any filmmaker. I mean, if I make, for any creative person, It's a lot of courage to go ahead and make a fool out of ourselves, because every day that's what we do. We actually have to muster up courage to stand in front of the camera or stand in front of the mic, or make a film, hoping that we are not making a fool out of ourselves. Like, we are ready to actually get laughed at. And constantly, when you're walking on the set also, the actual inspiration for me was Maniratnam sir's autobiography, where he mentions that, for his first film, he did not know anything about filmmaking, but he just went there and he acted. Apparently, he just acted, so nobody actually figures out that he doesn't know anything about filmmaking. Something on those lines he mentioned in one autobiography. But I think it's very important for us to fake courage, because that's the only way we build courage. I mean, faking courage is the only way that you muster courage. So every day for Pelli I had to fake it. I had to really fake it till I make it. Like, I had to fake courage. I had to get up every day, even if I was weak in my knees, even if I knew that all these experienced lightmen, experienced gaffers, experienced union members were looking at this fat bald boy who's coming in and actually calling the shots. I was wondering what the hell are they thinking of me constantly, because they used to just say, "Good morning, sir," but they never smiled, because they had to say it because they're getting their beta. But I know that they're not saying it because out of any respect, because they're like, screw this guy, I have to work for this bloody 26-year-old guy, 28-year-old guy unnecessarily well. Like, this is what they were thinking, I guess. But
speaking of energy, I'm sure they've got your energy, that you know very well, you know what you're doing.
Yeah, so what happened was, I already had a plan. I was very planned. Right from my first shot to my last shot, I was very planned. In fact, I called them and I explained to them the seriousness of Sing Sound. So for my first schedule, my crew was always giving me looks like, what the hell is this fellow up to? Who does he think he is? He thinks he's from Hollywood. He's coming straight and he's going to change this whole thing around. Inside, I was thinking, I hope they don't find out that I don't know jack shit. So, so I was just hoping that, that I make sense. So I was constantly asking them during tea breaks. I used to call all the lightmen. I used to go, have a sip of tea with them. I said, "Are you understanding what I'm trying to do?" They're like, yeah, I get it. I get what you're trying to do. I'm like, you're getting the story? Yeah, I'm getting the story. That was my confidence that these boys are getting the story. Maybe I'm making sense. But it was the third schedule when they actually came down to me and they said, "We absolutely loved working with you because you treated us with respect and you know what you're doing. You seem like you're from Bombay. I've worked in a couple of Hollywood films and this is how they're structured. They're very well planned. They're very meticulously, you've planned everything." A few senior technicians came and they told me that, "I know Sing Sound and you're bringing it back. And I feel that your dialogues are very nice." Because when they were shooting Nasaun and Zasta, the lightmen and the people were laughing. They couldn't control. And I was like, are they laughing at me or are they laughing at the dialogue? I didn't know because I was so paranoid about things. But eventually, it all made sense after the film was released. Because after the film was released, a lot of union members, this is surprising that they never actually watched their own films. They're so used to filmmaking. They're so used to every shot that they're just not used to going there and watching that film again. Because they're just in the process of making films. They're not really interested in cinema. But for Pelli Choopulu, they all went. And I remember one guy putting his head out of one taxi and waving out to me and saying, "Hey, I put the light for you, man. I put the light for you, man." Thank you.
So good. But give me a dialogue. Which is your favorite dialogue from Pelli Choopulu that you remember till date?
See, for me, on the contrary to popular belief, my favorite dialogue is when Ritu slaps Nandu. And she says, breakup చేసినందుకు కాదు సరిగ్గా చేయనందు. Because I've been in relationships where relationships weren't ended on bad communication. And I felt I was the ass. And I realized that, communication is key. And how passionately you enter a relationship, you have to also make sure that you don't leave a tragic scar for that person. I mean, it's your responsibility that you end a relationship on good terms, because you have to value the good memories. Otherwise, it leaves a very scarring effect for that person, and it's you're responsible for it. I mean, that's bad karma if you don't end a relationship well. So you have to do whatever. Yeah.
Throughout your interviews, you've said such great things, but this is my most favorite thing you've ever said, Tarun. This just makes me like you all the more as a girl, especially.
Not that I'm saying I'm not perfect. I still fight with Lata, and sometimes I end the note on a very bad day. But sometimes you just have to tell yourself that people are important. You're here. People are the most important thing. And hurting somebody's emotion knowingly and just leaving it off like that can put you in a soup. I mean, for you emotionally, it can build a lot of guilt, which might come in later. Right now, you might be fine, but that guilt will always come back in the form of cancer or some shit disease that you don't want. So you better not be guilty of anything. I mean, just be guilt-free. If you've done something, don't regret it. Make sure you talk to that person and sort it out, because you have one life. You're going to meet a few people along the way. You better respect them and learn to forgive them also, because everybody is human. There's no bad person. So
this is why I love talking to directors, because it just goes to prove how much they are there, all over the movie, even though they're not there on the screen. Every dialogue, every scene comes from some thought and emotion, that has made them. It's a piece of them. And I love breaking that down. Now, moving to the movie which introduced me to you, I think for the first time I interviewed you because of Veena Nagarani Ki Emaindi. And it was very different, of course. Had to be very different from Pelli Choopulu. But tell me, is it because you're so young, you vibe with the millennial generation so well? The movie, the movies that you make scream out, the youth mentality, if I can call it that. Or what is it? Do you go out of your way to make it like that, or it just comes naturally? Because it was specially made for young ones, though everybody from across all age groups enjoyed it.
So what happens is, as a writer, as a director, what happens is you have to dig deep into that well of emotions that you're familiar with. And I feel that a lot of filmmakers put their heart and soul into a few films. After that, they're very drained out.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't come out naturally to them. For me, what happens is I understand that if I write a character, I have to really treat him like a person. I can't really treat them badly. When I see some bad films, what happens is I start cringing at certain things. Not saying that I'm perfect. I know that I have made a lot of mistakes in the two films that I've done too. But to the best of my abilities, I mean, to at least my conscious filmmaker self, I want to actually give respect to every character that's coming on screen, not making him like some puppet or, some kind of just a two-dimensional tool for the protagonist to actually achieve his or her goals. Yeah, what happens is a lot of women characters are just flat. They're just there because they're beautiful. Mostly they're from North India, they're fair. Or, there are comedians who are just slapped for slapstick humor, literally. So they're just slapped because they have to crack some kind of joke. They don't add to the plot. They don't exist. But that's not how I look at people. I mean, when I look at somebody, I definitely give them some value. The thing is, I do not want to treat anybody like they're two-dimensional. So, especially in my writing. So, all the supporting characters and all the characters that you see in Pelli Choopulu or Veena Nagarani Ki Emaindi.
How do your vibe is young, your energy is young, or you go out of your way and make your movies young and relatable? How does that work? Especially Veena Nagarani.
Okay, so basically, when I started off also, I was trying to look at the characters which are around me, and I wanted to make them completely three-dimensional. I do not like two-dimensional characters, especially in the films that we watch, which are not that great. I realize that some characters are just placeholders. They're just progressing the plot, but they're not adding anything to the, the character development. And the realism is kind of missing. And I'm a big, I have a big, liking towards realism. And I have to make sure that my characters are very, very real. although I probably could not, I think I still have to go a long way to bring out realism into my films, even better realism. But I felt that at least to the best of my abilities, I've made sure that my characters are three-dimensional. And for them to be three-dimensional, I have to dig into their trauma, their childhood, their past, their character arcs. I have to design an archetype for them. So I have to really understand them up close. I mean, I can't really put a character there just for fun or whatever. So I realized that at least for the first few films, where I have to work flawlessly and I have to work with limited budgets till I scale up to a certain level, I have to make sure that I have to play to my strengths. And my strengths are my generation. I mean, the generation that I've seen interacted with, the characters that I've seen around me. And that's why Pelli Choopulu has a lot of my friends, a lot of impressions of the characters around me, the people that I've seen. Similarly, Eena Garaniki Emayindi happened organically because I wanted to write really something from the heart, because Pelli Choopulu had become such a massive giant that it was going to crush me. So after Pelli Choopulu, I had to say this. I never realized that this film would be this big. It has gone beyond my expectation. Now, whatever I do will be compared to that. And it will be a letdown for a lot of people. But I realized that, I will not try to play the safe game. Because if I keep doing it and feeding that ego of my audience, I will become crushed. I'll be very limited as a filmmaker. So I have to take a very conscious choice to actually break that expectation for myself. So I went and did a very niche film for a niche audience, which is the younger generation. And I knew that only these people will connect to it. I knew that because Suresh Babu sir, when I told him about Eena Garaniki Emayindi, he said, not everybody will like this film. But the people who will like it, they will really love this film. But the people who do not like it will not like it. They'll compare it to Pelli Choopulu and they say, it's an average film compared to that. Because they will not get the theme of what you're trying to tell. This is not that family film. So you're not going to get 40 crores. He mentioned this during pre-production. And I took a conscious call to do it. I took a conscious call to completely dismantle the expectations of the family audience had set on to me. Because that was the only way I'll set myself free as a filmmaker. Because I know that if I make a family film, people will watch. If I make a youth film, people will watch. And if I make an action film, it will have its own audience. I do not have to worry about trying to feed the ego of my audience and crush my own creative self. So that was a very conscious call for ENE, that I had to do something which was close to my heart, even if it catered to a very small audience. So I was happy.
I interviewed Abhinav and Simran for the same channel very recently, and I told him what Suresh sir told me. When I interviewed Suresh sir for Eena Garaniki, for the promotions, he said, I think these, guys' lives are going to change after this. I think to a certain extent, it is so true, because that movie is attached to them no matter what else they do, even with Vishwak. Eena Garaniki sticks, always it is in the background somewhere.
So what happened was, I remember Suresh sir told me at the release of the film, I still remember, I always respect that man, because somehow he has this God-given foresight about cinema. It is mad. I mean, I've never seen somebody predict cinema like that. And I always used to think that such people are scam. Like, when somebody predicts a film, I used to think he's just lying out of his mouth to just say. And I used to think Suresh sir also was like that. He used to tell me that this film won't do this much, this thing will. I thought he already knew the figures. I thought he knew some inside information. The moment he told me about ENE, I realized that this man has some supernatural power related to cinema. He told me that this film will collect so-and-so crores. It will become a hit. It will not be as a big hit as Pelli Choopulu, but you wait and watch. This will be a cult film. This will gain more cult following than Pelli Choopulu ever did. And I thought this man is just saying something to, just boost up the team's morale or something. It went and collected the same number of crores. It went on to become this cult now. Everywhere I'm going, people are asking me, hey, when the hell are you going to do ENE 2, man? Why are you doing hosting and all that other nonsense? Go and do ENE 2. So people are like, I said, did your father pay me money? Did your father give me a loan? So these
No,
days,
I'll tell you, I don't like comparing movies. They're all different. They're each to his own, every movie. But it's like our own Tollywood Telugu Dil Chahta Hai, if you ask me. Seriously,
I
you
love
know,
it. I'm so
it
glad.
does. And I mean it as a compliment. It brought that fresh flavor. It was fun. And you directed your mom in this movie. Your mom was there. Geeta ma'am was
Yeah,
there.
yeah. She was there, and I
How
was
is
like,
how is it directing her on the sets? I want to know because she's somebody who doesn't take anything lying down. No.
so I am very, very strict with mom. In fact, for the first day, mom was there, and I am very, very nervous because I do not want her to disappoint me on set. So
Yeah.
I lost my cool. I yelled at her, and I realized how badly I was behaving. And
Ugh.
it became very, very messy, very ugly. Very quickly, I lost my temper because everything was breaking apart that one day. The first day of E&E, everything just went haywire. I mean, the location failed, everything failed. Luckily, my team put everything back together and we were running back on track. But mom was there and she was trying to take her space. She wasn't getting into my vibe. And I was too frustrated to actually deal with her. And I realized how sensitive actors are. They're so clueless about everything. We've got to actually spoon feed them information, take care of them like babies. And I didn't do that right. And I realized it was my mistake. And I quickly went and apologized to her. And she said, no. You do your job. If you have to scold me, she said. So I said, I felt very bad. So I realized after that day, the entire E&E shoot, I never lost my cool on anything for anybody because I just realized you have to give it some time. And mom shoot was for the first 2-3 days and mom was done for that. But it brought back a lot of memories because mom was there and I had to make her cry for a scene. And I sat with her. I told the crew to actually be silent for some time. Then I spoke to her about my dad, about our tough times, and she was almost crying. And then I said, roll. I said, action. I said, I exploited her emotion. So she was crying.
Oh, you've got to do what you've got to do. You can't help it. But in Agraniki, you carried it forward also. And then I was very surprised when you jumped into acting because I didn't know you had plans. We had never spoken about them. But did you have a plan or it just happened?
So I always felt that I can act better than any actor out there. Like, what is this?
I love the honesty.
Yeah, so I always used to think these people just don't get my vibe. I mean, I can act so much better. These guys are just doing nonsense. I always used to think that. And actually, I crack a few jokes on my actors also. Like, I used to tease them. Yeah, I used to tell Abhinav Gomatam that his face was like this. Like, what the hell were you thinking when you were doing this? Were you thinking that you were imitated a monkey or what? So I go really hard on my actors. As in, when we're winding up, I crack a lot of jokes and then just to keep the environment very fun and nice and all that. So they also really tease me a lot. So I used to think, honestly, that acting was really a piece of cake and all that. But what happened, quite honestly, is Vishwaksen saw me act when I was trying to enact the thing. So he said, you have to act in my film. I said, screw you and screw your film. I'm not acting. That's what I told him. Very, very, with a lot of respect, I looked at Vishwak and I said, screw you. And I used the word for that. So then he pulled me into his film. He's a bloody, such a, what do you call that? Mondodu anta Telugulo.
Taskmaster.
Yeah, so he never let me go. I said, I do not want to act Vishwak. He said, he pulled me into it. He talked to Lata, he talked to my mum. He pulled me into it. And I said, I look like a bloody 45-year-old guy on screen, man, with my paunch and on my belly and all that. I cannot act. I am humiliating myself. I'm so used to humiliating myself. I can't do this publicly now. I have to tell my kids that was your father and you know how stupid I look on screen. He says, no, don't worry about all that. You just have to act. I said, okay. I just didn't want to make a mess out of his film. He didn't have any other casting option. So I said, okay, let me play one cop role. And I thought I couldn't look at myself at all. I mean, I can't act and I can't look at myself on screen. because it's just so, I cringe when I look at myself on screen.
Oh,
It's
come
horrible.
on, you were so convincing. I mean, you were the best part about the trailer, if you ask me. And I don't just say that because I know you so well. You were very convincing, and that's the
Yeah,
actor's job.
so luckily what happened was I realized that it is a nerve-wracking job. I mean, you have to
Yeah.
worry about your makeup, you have to think about so many things. You think that these people are fanning themselves because they want to be cool. No, they don't want to sweat in front of the camera, There's so many things that I realized. The airs of an actor, I always used to make fun of it. But I realized that they are actually very lonely, insecure people sitting in the caravan waiting for instructions. They don't know what the hell is happening on set. 60 people, 70 people, 100 people are going to look at them and action is called. And they better know their lines. They better know what the hell they're doing. And every time there's a retake, your confidence is dropping. And it is a nerve-wracking job. So I realized every department has its own thing. That gave me a lot of learning. But there was also some kind of thrilling experience about acting that it took to me like I was started becoming addicted to it. So after finishing Faluknama Das, I was like, damn, it's over, but I'm glad that this happened. It's over. And then what happened, I get a call from Vijay. Vijay calls me up and he says, in his lazy voice, he calls me and he's like, Tarun, there's one story, you have to come and listen. I said, bloody hell, I'm going to charge you every time you get a damn script and I have to listen to it and tell you if it's good or not. Don't use me like this because, I have a job of my own and all that. I was just pulling his leg. He called me in and I went there. I listened to the story and I thought the story was damn interesting, as in there was this quirkiness to the whole story. And these two boys were from Chennai, and I really admire Tamil cinema. They're very quirky.
Yeah.
There was a new movement coming in from Nalan Kumaraswamy. Sudhu Kavam was one amazing film, and these guys come from that school. So I really like that vibe, the way they presented the film and all that. And I said, Vijay, this is a great film, man, but I don't know if you're doing a solo hero film kind of a thing. I don't know if this is the thing. And he's like, no, this is for you. I said, what the hell do you mean by this is for you? So I said, no, you have to act in it. I said, are you stupid? Is this a prank? Is this some YouTube marketing tool for you? Like you're pranking me or some shit? I was like, no, you have to act. They saw your performance in something and they feel that you have that really papam innocent look. And that goes well with the script. I said, what the fuck are you guys doing? I really thought they were going to make a mess out of the whole thing. And I told them, are you looking at me? Are you looking at me and are you thinking that I will carry this damn film on the shoulders? And you think that I can be a lead? I am 105 kilos and you think I can be the lead of this film? So then they said, no, we do not want you to lose weight also. We want you to be the same. We want you to look nice and healthy. So we want you to be like this itself. It's not like a glamorous role or something. I said, okay, but I'm not so sure, man. I don't want Vijay to lose his money because already a lot of people are waiting for this fellow to fail. This fellow's come up from nowhere and everybody's like, who the hell is this guy? What does he think of himself? He suddenly become number one in everybody's thing. Everybody wants this fellow to fail. Everybody wants to see a train wreck and I don't want to be that engine. So I am the guy who bought him and I don't want the guy to actually fail because of me. I was very nervous about that. So I told Shamir, so I told...
that was a character which was so cute and adorable. The kind of character you want to get into the screen and give a hug. Seriously, and say, don't worry.
So they said that, Vijay said, Tarun is always nervous. Tarun is always in a panic attack. Tarun is always like, what the hell is he going to do? What Emaitundi and all that. So I think this fellow is right. I was like, are you guys scolding me or are you guys praising me? Like, do you guys know that I'm here and you guys are humiliating me? You're saying that I'm a coward. You're saying that I'm a nervous guy. So they were laughing. And then we did the rehearsal. I told Shamir that I am definitely going to audition. You better look at me and I have to look at myself on screen and know that I can pull off this film. Otherwise, I'm not damaging Vijay's reputation because that's something that, I helped at least initiate, right? So I don't want to do that. Then the film happened, and they said after pre-production was almost happening, they started pre-production. There was a puja and all that, and during the puja, they said slowly, Shamir is praying to God. He's Muslim. He's standing in front of that God there, and he's praying. And I'm doing, now what do I have to do? You have to touch the aarti. I said, he's touching the aarti, and like, Arun, you have to lose weight. You have to lose weight. Like, fucker, you tell me now. 30 years I've only put on weight, and you're telling me that in the next 60, 70 days I have to lose weight. Are you mad or what? That's not going to happen. And all this is happening in the puja. They're like standing there and he's telling me, like, fuck you, you should have told me a long time back. So I'm not losing weight, and how the hell do you think I'll have hair? We'll get a wig for you. I'm like, fuck your wig, man. I'm not doing this shit. I am going to be myself. Vijay told me to be myself. I'm going to be myself. If you like it, put it. Otherwise, I'm not. I don't care. I'm not really interested in acting and all that. Yeah, no.
But it was a great chemistry between you and Abhinav to see the interplay. Two very different personalities, and the comedy was natural. If you ask me, very situational.
It was. I think that's the way we are. Also, I feel that Shamir is like that. Arjun, the co-director, is like that. I'm like that, and Abhinav is like that. We can't be serious for more than 2 minutes. I mean, we get together, even if the world is really ending and there's a zombie attack, we can't be serious. We'll be making fun of something or the other. So I think it's just a great vibe. We are in that vibe. So it was like that.
But Abhinav, now you've done both.
Sorry?
Now you've done both, direction and acting. Now tell me, what about directing is very challenging? The most challenging thing about directing and the most challenging thing about acting?
Most challenging thing about making a film, I'd say, is writing. Yeah. I mean, writing takes a lot of time for me because I have to get it spot on. For me, if I do not get it spot on, because that is a blueprint of the film, if I do not get that right, it's tough. And once I have a script, direction is effortless for me. As in, I don't find anything challenging. Some people, some actors are stuck in the commercial format of cinema, and they come with baggage and they have a set of emotions. They feel that they have to do something extra to actually feel like they have acted. And I tell them it's not about doing extra. It's about being in the character and just having a childlike imagination. When I say action, just something snaps and you become the character. Now, to translate that to some actors who actually have the baggage of commercial cinema is the toughest thing, because I have to wash it off and then I have to tell them this is completely different. Do not act. Please do not act. Yeah. Tell them that. So that's the scariest part about the direction. And when it comes down to acting, the toughest part is immediately switching the role there. The toughest part is to work with your co-actors, get the timing right, I guess. And also the toughest part is waiting. I mean, there's so much of wait. The start of your day is, your energy is at that. But you have to contain it and bring it all again during action. And that is difficult. Yeah. And that kind of has a sloping down effect the more the takes are. And if it's a sunny day, and if your day didn't go well, if they're planning the shot and you're stuck in the caravan, your whole vibe is going down. So it's all about effective planning also. But as an actor, you have to be sensitive to the screw, and you have to contain your energy and bring it all back every time the director says action. So I feel these are the two challenging things.
Two things it's very scary for me. I don't think I can ever act. I was just hanging out with an actress recently. I was telling her, how do you deal with the pressure? I can't look good all the time. I just cannot.
It is scary. Yeah, it seems effortless that a lot of actors look good or they deliver dialogues or whatever. It is a painful process. The kind of things that they have to do to their faces and their bodies. Deep down, they are not really superficial people. I feel that actors go through so much of superficial processes that they are not superficial people at all. I mean, they, at least the generation that we are dealing with now, with the kind of awareness that there's there, actors are actually very profound people. They understand that beauty is only skin deep. And beauty is not skin deep, as in it goes further in. So
True. No,
think
it's like poor things. I'm sure they want to have a grumpy day, look shabby and grumpy, but they can't. I feel bad for them. But I want to ask you this. This, I'm sure a lot of writers think about when directors doing big commercial feature films, when you sit down, and I'm sure, like I said, you have a bank of ideas. We are not talking about producers demanding or actors demanding. When you sit on your own, when you think about your next movie, what's the science and the, commerce behind it? Or how do you put one story down on the paper? How do you choose that? And how do you start with that?
So for me, I really have to dig out a theme. I have to really think about what is the thing that I can talk about on a news debate for hours together. And I have to present myself that opinion, because that becomes my moral compass, which drives me towards telling the story. And different opinions on those themes personify as characters for me. Different perspectives of that theme automatically become, I personify them into characters. And the entire film, in the undercurrent, is a psychological debate of that theme. I mean, it's a debate of a theme that we're talking about. Only then can I see consistency. For me, the primary thing is to find a theme, whether it's about procrastination, if it's about facade of fake friendships for Reena Garaniki, or procrastination for Pelli Choopulu. These are the themes that I have to really dig down deep into and understand. And for me, if that is not there, I no matter how good the plot is or how well-defined the characters are, I don't think that you're going to say something profound or there is a proper structure to it. So from there, I dig into the characters. I look at characters that I've seen. I look at character archetypes. There are lots of story structures that I battle down onto. I mean, there's Chris Vogler, there's Sid Field, there's Robert McKee. All their books I go through again, and I see if the structures are universal. And at the core of it, when I read the story, and I have to basically now, I'm making it a point to not make my theme too complex, because I want to reach a wider audience. So I do not want to please that pseudo-intellectual crowd that I grew up around. I mean, I don't care about their opinion about my film. I really want to make a good, decent, happy film. And it really bothers me if somebody who's working with me, my drivers or my assistants, if they don't understand the theme of the film, then I think I failed. So now I've realized that, I have to make it simpler. So this is my process in a gist.
Do you storyboard?
I do. I really have to storyboard, because sometimes no matter how much, how articulate you are, because this is a visual medium, you have to visually be able to communicate well. That's my dog.
I know, coffee. When are we going to see coffee in a movie of yours?
Coffee, I mean, I already have a beagle in Reena Garaniki Maindi, but it's not coffee, but maybe next time.
I know.
So yeah, for me, that is important. For me, the theme is important. And the storyboarding, when I actually have to explain something visually to the entire department, it makes sense for me to actually show them a picture, because that explains to them about where the camera is placed and how everything is done. And the most effective thing about a director is the way he articulates, the way he or she articulates, and the way they can communicate to every department. And I think your pre-production knowledge has to be spot on for you to actually effectively bring that 97% vision onto screen.
I haven't spoken to you about your TV hosting career. You're after our jobs. Tarun, where will we go?
No, so that's a very conscious effort for me, majorly because I understand. So what happened is, after Pelli Choopulu and even Reena Garaniki Maindi, there were a lot of channels that did not take my cast in because they did not have a face. They said there's no marketable face. We will not get TRPs. So we cannot, advertise this film. So I wondered, I thought it was very mean and rude, and I actually fought with them. But then I realized that this is how the system works. I mean, if you have a TV channel or a radio channel or a newspaper, you need to sell faces that actually sell. You can't, I mean, nobody's going to take premium costs. I mean, somebody's going to do charity, but it's always going to be charity. But you're in the business of making cinema, and you have to actually make sure you have a marketable face. So I realized that, there is no such thing as a marketable face. You have to just put yourself out there. So I realized quite sincerely that in this age, everybody's getting 15 minutes of fame. You just upload a TikTok video and you do not know who has the next 1 million followers. I didn't know about Bhuvan Bam. I didn't know about Carrie Minati. I didn't know about Hindustani Bao until recently. But I realized that, everybody now has to put themselves out there and you don't know what will click. And for me as a filmmaker, I realized that a lot of my fellow filmmakers, they actually scold me and they tell me, I mean, they're all my well-wishers. Sujit and Bharat Kamma, Vivek Adya, Venkatesh Maha, and all these guys. Some of them ask me, like, why are you doing this? Some of them are very happy that I'm doing this. But why are you doing this? Are you not spending enough time on writing? They're scared that, you're going way off. They're genuinely talking to me about all this. But, I tell these boys that we've got to put ourselves out there. We've got to be a marketable face. Because tomorrow, if you want to tell a story that none of these actors can bank upon, I mean, they don't want to be a part of your story because they're worried that their market will crash if they are not a part of that story. And you passionately believe in something. And the only way you can do it is with new people. But when you do it with newcomers and some distributor tells, who's this guy? Obviously, you're not going to get theaters. Some promotional guy is going to say, who's there in this? No, it's not going to happen. So I personally feel, and I've taken it up as my agenda to be the face of my film, even if I'm going to cast somebody known or reputed, because I want to infiltrate the industry with new talent. Quite honestly, it is very gratifying to see Vijay go up to what he's become. It's gratifying to see Vishwak Sen, Abhinav Gomatam, Darshi, Sushi, Vivek Sagar, all these people becoming a major part of an industry. And I feel that is power to me, that's my wealth that I've created and I've garnered. And I want to keep doing that. And I want to keep doing that passionately. For that to happen, I need to know that I have to be a marketable face as well. Tomorrow, because I remember one distributor, one producer, who basically, I don't know if he hates me, I don't know what, but ever since I gotten into this industry, he keeps taunting me. And that man said, you think you're famous? You think you made it all after Pelli Choopulu? Because after Inagarani came in during the release, I called up a distributor in Karimnagar. I called up a distributor in Kakinada. The guy in Karimnagar faintly knows you. The guy in Kakinada doesn't even know who you are, doesn't know Pelli Choopulu. So how do you think you're going to sell? You have to make big films with big stars. Only then will you be a known face. And I looked at him for 5 minutes and I said, next time I meet you, I'm going to make sure that every distributor you call will know my name. Otherwise, I'm not going to do that. And I was very serious about that. And it's not a big deal. So for me, it's work. I mean, I have to do this TV show. One, because I wanted to really understand the craft behind every director. And I thought it was a very unique show. It came to me. I didn't create this show. It came to me. And I thought it was a God-given opportunity because TV infiltrates like no other medium. Yeah, TV is huge. And TV, you just go into the hearts of your audience. And I wanted to do that for directors also, that too. If I'm interviewing filmmakers, only filmmakers, and I'm talking about their craft, their personal life, what better thing to do? I mean, if I'm the host, it's a God-given opportunity. And I couldn't say no to it. And I wanted to do this. And I will keep doing this. Quite honestly, I will make films and I will put myself out there no matter how humiliating it is for myself. Because I have to make sure that... You
did such a great job. You're just like me. You're self-critical. No, you did such a fab job. You talk so well. Why do you think I keep chasing for your interviews like this, the way I do? I know you give me great content. And for someone like you to be on the other side, on the other end, I think it was fantastic, fantastic. But tell me, how do you stay this real after having been around for this long? You're as real as it gets. I know you have been to your place. I know your family. I don't know if it's the family that has molded you like this, or is it just you, but you guys are just the real deal, you know. There is no any thumb jam, no glitz, no glamour has been able to penetrate. It's work, it's work. You stay real. How do you manage to do?
Yes.
Because it's not easy. Like you said, marketing is the name of the game, and people do a lot of things in the name of marketing. But you
Yes.
guys personally have managed to, you know, keep the sanctity intact.
Yes.
How do you do this?
Because I feel that the audience can see through bullshit. I mean, I am the audience. I can see through bullshit. I know that people are smart enough now to see through bullshit. If somebody is doing it for the sake of popularity, they know that they're doing it for the sake of popularity. There's nothing hiding it. I mean, if an actor comes late in an audio function, everybody knows that he's doing it to garner attention. I mean, these are people who are doing it must be idiots to think that people are dumb. The biggest stereotype that I hate about this industry is that they think the audience is dumb. They think that the makers or the people who make the films, the people who have the money and the power, they think that they are slightly more smarter and more intelligent than the rest of us. And I think that is just such a bad stereotype that it's going to fall flat. They're going to fall flat on their face. And I feel that honesty is the only thing that will cut through all this bullshit. And I'm going to do it. I mean, it makes your life easier. And that's what my father stood for. And I think I'm going to stand for that. And I'm going to make sure that, you know, if I'm doing something, I'm going to be honest about it. Because if I'm playing a role in a film, I'm playing it because I like it and I'm doing it because I want to put myself out there. There's no harm in hiding that. And I'm not going to treat people any differently, because I know a lot of people in this industry, they say that, you know, you've got to put people in their place. You've got to treat people. You can't give your valuable time to every Tom, Dick and Harry. That's right. You cannot. When it comes to work, you cannot. But, you know, when you're doing it, when you have to appear in front of an interview, when you're appearing, it's a mutually beneficial thing. And you have to treat people with mutual. But if you feel very entitled and, you know, if you're going to put people at bay and, you know, they're wasting my time, you're doing it because you want your screen time, right? I'm doing this interview because I can reach out to more people. You're doing it because we are making content together. Let's get real here. So the moment you think you're doing somebody else a favor, then I think you're really, really stupid. People have this bad notion. I know a lot of people who go and buy second-hand expensive cars to drive down to audio functions so they can look more elite. And I don't know how that's sustainable also. I mean,
True.
Deep down, I mean, people can see through your bullshit, man. Like, if you're honest, if you tell people that this is what I am, I think it's going to really make your life simpler. That's all I'm saying. It's going to make your life simpler.
Tarun, we'll quickly wrap up. I have a quick rapid fire round for you.
Right.
Different questions this time, okay? I've really brainstormed.
Right.
One movie you have seen and you've always wanted to direct.
Iruvar.
Oh.
That's Maniratnam sir's film. Iruvar. I really love that film, and I think I hope I can get a chance to direct something like that.
One thing you don't want to do in your movies, ever.
I don't think I'll ever do an item song.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, not because I'm trying to be honest and goody and all that. It's just that I can't. I really don't understand the purpose of it. I can't do it. If you want me to do a music video, a raunchy music video with somebody, maybe separately I'll do it, but I cannot include that in my cinema.
And a director who's been an inspiration.
Maniratnam sir, Jandiala sir, all these people are very inspiring. And also Martin Scorsese, if you ask for Hollywood. I think Anurag Kashyap, a lot of directors. Even our Jigar Tanda director. I have a lot of respect for all these people.
Best thing about your life?
Best thing about my life? I think my ecosystem, my family, my friends. Very, very happy, very happy to have them around.
One line you kept repeating again and again to Vijay Deverakonda while directing him in Pelli Chuplu.
One line, huh? I don't think I said anything to Vijay. It was always like superb, superb, superb. I think I was constantly
Ah,
saying superb, man, superb. Very well done, very well done. That's what I said.
what will be your dream team? If you have a dream team, a DOP, the
I think,
producer,
yeah,
the actor.
so I was just telling Lata about the next project that we're doing. We're so excited about it. I said dream team. The dream team is Lata as production designer, Niket Bommi as cinematographer, Vivek Sagar as music director. One day I would like to work with A.R. Rahman sir. But apart from that, I think I have the dream team right now. Quite honestly, with
Oh,
all honesty.
and you're going to be with Netflix. We're going to talk about it when the short movie is going to release for sure.
Yes.
One thing Tarun Bhaskar should stop doing.
I think I should stop saying yes to a lot of things because I feel that I'm involving myself in helping a lot of other people, which is also not helping me. And I think I have to start saying no for the betterment of everybody else also in my team.
A superpower you would want to have as a director?
Think about what the actors are thinking because I sometimes think that I just want them to be honest. But if I have the superpower to think what they're thinking, I can correct it in a way. So,
if you want to wrap it up in a brief line, to people who want to enter the industry as actors, directors, what would you want to say to them, Tarun?
I think be real. Don't imagine this industry as this big mountain that you have to climb. There's no industry. It's very imaginative. We are actually building an imaginative industry. It's just a place. It's just a system where people actually make films and distribute films. And that is also collapsing now because of the democratization that the internet has offered us. It's all about the craft. It's all about creating content. Today, if you're creating 1 minute content or 120 minutes content, there are distribution platforms distributing it. All you have to worry about is a technical craft. And that's the only thing. You don't have to please anybody. That is what I feel. You just have to focus on your craft. And do not look for the dream team. That's a mistake that a lot of newcomers are making. They feel that they need to get the right team. They need to get lucky with the team. It's nothing to do about. There's nothing special about the team. You have to work with people you know, who you believe in. You have to really collaborate and grow as a team. There is no. I don't think you will make a great film if you get the best technicians if you do not have it in you. And I think you have to really focus on the craft. That's the most important thing.
You always keep it real and you will always be my favorite. And I keep waiting for you to come out with something so that I can promote it. I can be a part of it on some level. you know how much I love your family, your dog, and I know how talented you are, how sweet you are. But thank you so much for doing this with me, talking to me on Collabboard with Say What. And it's always going to be a pleasure doing interviews with you, Tarun. And I hope we keep doing this for the next 10 years. We'll have this interplay going on. Every time you release a movie, we get to break it down.
I know, yeah. It'd be very interesting to see the way we grow as individuals also. I would like to see. Last time we spoke, you were already a celebrity in my house because your voice was already all around the house. You know how mom is mad about radio shows. So now I'm looking at you and I'm doing video interviews and I'm seeing how things are changing with the changing times. So it'll be interesting to see how we land up in another 5-10 years.
True. It'll be so interesting. But thank you. Great pleasure. Like always, I learn something new about you, about the craft. You're like an institute in itself. I can't wait for you to start teaching. That'd be great.
You know what? I really hope I learn a little bit about filmmaking so that towards the end of my thing, my goal is to actually settle down as a film teacher, film professor or whatever, so that I can still learn, interact with students. That's my dream. I always want to be a teacher. So if somebody is looking at this interview and if they're waiting to hire me 10, 15 years later or even now, I would love to.
I'm going to tell Amala ma'am this.
Yeah, you have to. Please recommend me to her, please.
Lovely talking to you. Thank you so much, Tarun. We need to post for a picture for the cover page. Shall we do 2 thumbs up? Yeah.
Comment, share, like, subscribe to Collabboard Production.
Hi, this is Vijay Devarkonda.
Please subscribe to Clapboard Production.
Hi guys, this is Ed Visesh. Subscribe to Clapboard.
Hi everybody, this is Rashmi. Subscribe to Clapboard.
Hello everyone, I'm Nandini. Please subscribe to Clapboard.
Don't forget to subscribe to Clapboard.
This is Vishwa. Subscribe to Clapboard.
Please to subscribe on Clapboard.
This is Nitya Shetty. Subscribe to Clapboard.
Please subscribe to Clapboard.
Hello, this is Sandeep Reddy Vanga. Please subscribe Clapboard.
Please subscribe Clapboard.
Hi guys, name me Hemachandra. Please do subscribe to Clapboard.
Hi, I'm writer Prasanna Kumar Bezwada. Please subscribe to Clapboard Productions.
Subscribe to Clapboard Productions.